It was a Monday morning, and Layla stood in front of the school gates, her hands gripping the straps of her backpack tightly. The sun barely peeked through the clouds, casting a pale light over the small, quiet town she had just moved to. The excitement she had felt when her family first told her they were moving here had long faded, replaced by a cold knot in her stomach. New schools were never easy, and being the new girl in a town where everyone seemed to know each other made it even worse. With one last deep breath, Layla stepped through the gates. The whispers started almost immediately. "Look, it's the new girl. She looks different." Layla tried to ignore them, pushing the growing anxiety down with every step. She had grown used to being the new kid, but this time it felt different. Her skin was darker than most of the other kids here, and her accent betrayed that she wasn't from around here. She had come all the way from Atlanta, and now she was stuck in a small town where everyone knew everyone except for her. She tried to focus on the sound of her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway, trying to drown out the quiet murmurs that followed her. She adjusted her shirt, wishing she had something else to wear, but nothing felt right. Her mind was racing. What if they don't like me? What if I don't fit in? The bell rang, signaling the start of the first class. Layla quickly walked to her homeroom, her heart pounding in her chest. She pushed the door open and stepped inside, scanning the room for a seat. The chatter in the room paused for a second, followed by a few glances her way. She could feel every set of eyes on her, but she tried her best to act like it didn't matter. She made her way to an empty seat in the back of the room, hoping she could blend in. But it didn't take long for the trouble to start. It was the unmistakable sound of high heels clicking against the floor that drew her attention. Layla glanced up and saw three girls strutting down the aisle, their eyes locked on her. The leader of the trio, Amber, was the first to speak. Her sharp, pointed features and confident stride made her look like she owned the place. Well, 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 if it isn't the new girl," Amber said with a smirk, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Layla," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, though her heart was racing. Amber tilted her head, clearly amused. "Layla, huh? What? Did you run out of more interesting names to choose from?" Layla felt the heat rise to her cheeks. She knew better than to get into a verbal sparring match, but it stung just the same. Her hands trembled slightly as she kept her gaze fixed on the desk in front of her, not wanting to show any weakness. Amber leaned closer, her tone becoming even more mocking. "You're not from around here, are you? We don't see many people like you in this school." Layla stiffened, the words cutting deeper than she cared to admit. The other two girls behind Amber giggled, a cruel sound that made Layla's stomach twist. She felt her skin burn with humiliation, but she forced herself to stay calm. She was stronger than this. She had dealt with worse. Amber took a step back, her eyes scanning Layla from head to toe. "What's the matter? You don't want to talk to us?" she taunted, pushing Layla's shoulder with enough force to make her stumble slightly. Layla's breath caught in her throat, but she didn't let herself fall. She straightened up, keeping her eyes forward. This was it. This was the moment she would either let them walk all over her or stand her ground. "You better watch yourself, new girl," Amber continued, her voice laced with venom. "We don't take kindly to outsiders, especially ones who think they're too good for us." Layla could feel her pulse in her ears, her hands clenched tightly around the edge of the desk. She was scared of what they might say next, scared of being alone in this place where no one knew her name. But she refused to let fear control her. She had been through so much already. She wasn't about to let these girls break her. "Excuse me," Layla said, her voice quiet but firm. She wasn't going to let Amber see her sweat. "I don't know what your problem is, but I'm not here to make enemies. So, if you're done, I'll be happy to get back to my seat." Amber raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by Layla's calm response. Her friends exchanged looks, but Amber wasn't one to back down easily. "You think you can just come in here and act like you belong?" Amber sneered. "You don't. You'll never fit in here. We run this school, not you." Layla knew she couldn't let this go on any longer. She wasn't going to sit there and let this girl tear her down just because she was different. You don't know anything about me, Layla said, her voice gaining strength. And I don't need your approval to feel like I belong here. The room had gone completely silent now. Everyone was watching, waiting to see how this would play out. Layla didn't care anymore. She wasn't here to fit into their world. She was here to live her own life. And if they didn't like it, that was their problem, not hers. Amber, now visibly taken aback, stepped back. The smug smile that had been on her face disappeared, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. Layla didn't care if she was outnumbered or if Amber was the queen bee of the school. This was her moment, and she wasn't going to let anyone take her dignity. The bell rang, signaling the start of class, and Amber and her friends walked away, whispering to each other. Layla sat down at her desk, trying to ignore the stares that followed her. She wasn't going to let them win. Not today. As the teacher entered the room, Layla couldn't help but feel a small surge of pride. She had stood up for herself, and she knew that this was just the beginning. No matter what came next, she was ready. The bell rang, signaling the start of another school day. But as Layla entered the hallways, something felt different. She wasn't the same girl who had walked in the day before. No longer was she the girl who had to shrink back in fear. Layla felt a quiet confidence settle inside her. The kind of confidence that only comes when you know you've stood up for yourself. The day before, she had faced Amber and her friends, putting an end to their reign of terror in one bold moment. Amber, the queen bee of the school, had tried to break her, to make her feel small, just like she had done to others. But Layla had turned the tables, refusing to let Amber's cruelty define her. Now, as she made her way to her locker, she couldn't help but wonder, would they try again? Would Amber come after her with even more venom, determined to put her back in her place? Layla wasn't worried. She had learned long ago that the only way to stop bullies was to stand up to them, to show them that they had no power over you. And that's exactly what she did yesterday. She grabbed her books and headed to her first class, walking past the crowded hallways where students whispered behind their hands. As soon as she entered the classroom, she noticed Amber and her two friends, Sarah and Rachel, sitting at their usual spot at the back of the room. They immediately fell silent as she walked by. Layla could feel their eyes on her. But this time, it didn't make her uncomfortable. It didn't make her doubt herself. Instead, it fueled the fire inside her. She had stood up to them, and they had backed down. Now, it was their turn to deal with the consequences. Amber, clearly not used to being challenged, tried to make eye contact with Layla, but she was met with a cold, unwavering stare. Layla didn't break. She didn't look away. She was strong now, and nothing Amber said or did could take that from her. As the bell rang for class to begin, Amber stood up, making her way toward Layla. Her heels clicked loudly against the floor, and the sound echoed in the quiet room. Layla kept her back straight, refusing to flinch. "Hey, Layla," Amber said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Still think you can just walk around like you own this place?" Layla turned to face her, her expression calm but assertive. "Actually, yes. Ido." Amber's eyes narrowed, but she didn't say anything else. Layla could feel the tension in the room as all eyes turned to them. Amber and her friends were used to getting their way. They were used to intimidating everyone around them. But today, Amber wasn't getting what she wanted. For a moment, Amber said nothing, her gaze flickering between Layla and the other students who were watching intently. It was clear that she was trying to regain control of the situation, but Layla wasn't about to give it to her. Amber had underestimated her the day before, and now she was seeing the consequences of that mistake. Layla wasn't some scared new girl anymore. She wasn't the shy, unsure kid she had been when she first walked into the school. She had stood up for herself, and now she was going to make sure Amber and her friends knew that they couldn't bully her. "You know what, Amber?" Layla said, her voice strong but measured. "You've been bullying people for too long, and I'm done letting you treat me like I'm some kind of target. You don't scare me. Not anymore." The silence in the room was deafening. Amber stood frozen in place, her usual bravado cracking under the weight of Layla's words. It was clear that Layla wasn't backing down this time. The power dynamic had shifted. Amber's face flushed with anger, but Layla could see something else there too: fear. Amber had always been the one in control, the one who got what she wanted by making others afraid. But now, Layla had taken that control away, and it wasn't something Amber could easily get back. Layla took a step forward, her eyes locked with Amber's. "You've hurt so many people with your words and actions, Amber. You've made their lives miserable just to make yourself feel better. Well, not anymore. You don't get to do that to me." For a moment, Amber seemed like she might say something in return, but then she fell silent. Her friends, who had been standing behind her, exchanged uneasy glances. Sarah and Rachel, once loyal to Amber, were now watching her with uncertainty in their eyes. They were beginning to see the cracks in their leader's armor. Amber swallowed, her voice much quieter than usual. I didn't mean to," Layla interrupted her, not giving her the chance to finish. "You didn't mean to? You didn't mean to hurt me? Or anyone else? You didn't mean to bully people just to feel better about yourself?" Amber didn't respond. Instead, her shoulders slumped, and she looked away, clearly embarrassed. Layla had called her out in front of everyone, and Amber knew she couldn't escape it. The truth had been laid bare. Layla's voice softened, but her words were still powerful. "I'm not asking for much, Amber. Just take responsibility for what you've done. If you do, maybe we can all move on. But if you keep trying to tear people down, you'll end up alone." Amber's eyes filled with shame, and she finally whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to fit in." Layla nodded. "I understand that. But hurting others isn't the way to do it." For the first time, Amber's mask of confidence cracked. She had been caught in her own lies, and there was no escaping it. Layla had taken control, and Amber had no choice but to acknowledge her actions. As Layla turned to leave the classroom, she could feel the eyes of her classmates on her. The whispers had stopped. The power had shifted. Amber was no longer the untouchable queen bee, and Layla had become the one who stood up for what was right. From that day forward, the atmosphere at school changed. The bullies who once ruled the halls were no longer untouchable. They now knew that there were people who would stand up to them. And while Layla didn't expect Amber to change overnight, she knew that the message had been sent. She wasn't afraid anymore. Layla's courage became the talk of the school, and she became a symbol of strength. Her actions inspired others to find their voice and stand up for themselves. And even Amber, who had once tried to tear her down, couldn't help but admire the strength Layla had shown. The power dynamic had shifted, and the school would never be the same again. If you've ever had to face a bully, remember that standing up for yourself is the first step to taking back your power. Don't let anyone make you feel small. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to subscribe to expect stories for more powerful narratives that inspire change and strength.